On this episode 104 of the podcast, I'm going to talk about experts, chocolate, and supervillains. I know you're all lusting for the supervillain chat. So anyway, let's get into it, everybody. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Luke Who's Talking podcast. I'm just going to do that. My name's Luke. How are you doing out there? You all right? I hope you're all right. Anyway, let's get into the first little gripe. And that's people who are, now not people who actually are experts, but people who think they are experts, where in reality they actually don't know anything. Okay? They don't know anything. Now, or they're just like opinionated arseholes. That could be it. Probably is it. But anyway, I was okay. So what brought this thought on was the other week I was in a store, not the same one I talked about last episode. That was a doozy. But anyway, I was at a store and I was just talking to somebody in there, and so I was at a bike shop, right? In a bike store. And I was talking to somebody in there, and I said, I'm not sure how we got onto it. We got onto like long rides. And I said, I'd done 150 kilometre ride once. And they're like, oh yeah, where'd you ride to? So I told them where, and then they said, oh, so where do you live? Or like, yeah, so I gave them like this general area. And they were like, oh, that's not that far. That's only like, 60 or whatever. Yeah, oh, something's gone wrong there with your Garmin or your Strava. And I was like, well, I wrote it. I know how far it was. I mapped it out on Google. I know how far it was. So I was like, okay, didn't really say much. And then I got my Strava app up on my phone, went to the ride, so the map would come up, and then showed them. And I was like, this is it here. And then they were like, Oh, so you went via this place and blah, 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 Well, now, you see, when you're going somewhere, right, you're just going to say, I don't know, like, you're just going to sort of say where your end destination is. You're not going to elaborate on how you got there, right? But I said, I did 150 kilometres. I rode from town to certain, small area. What even would you call it? To another town, right? And then back again. Now, I didn't elaborate on how I got to where I was getting to, or how I didn't elaborate on the route. But if you say to somebody, you're going to go from your lounge to your kitchen, and just say it's 10 steps, but maybe it takes you 12. You'd be like, it was like, it shouldn't have taken you 12 steps. It should only take you 10. You haven't elaborated that what particular route you're going to, like you're taking. I just said, this was like the end point or the furthest away point. That's where I rode to, and then I rode back home. I didn't get into, this is how I got there. But anyway, they must have just assumed that I went a particular way. Anyway, it wasn't, my ride apparently was too long to get from where I started to where the destination was and back. It was too long. Couldn't possibly have ridden that far going there. And I was like, mate, you didn't do the route, right? You can't say that was too far or not far enough or whatever. You weren't there, you didn't do it. Anyway, so I got the map up and I was like, so this is, and they're like, oh yeah, so you've gone all the way around, you've gone the long way or something. And I'm like, yeah. But anyway, just like, somebody being an expert on something or making an assumption and they don't have all the details. So if that's you, don't do it, right? Don't be like an expert. Only talk about things you know, and be like, if somebody's, what they could have done is said, oh, how'd you get there? Like, what was your route? And I would have, could have elaborated on that, but I didn't. And so then they, assumed I went or must have taken a particular way, which apparently was, too far. And I was just like, whatever. Anyway, that was a rant, wasn't it? But I just like, don't be an expert or make assumptions on various things, everybody. Anyway, let's get into the next story. Very interesting, this one. Why am I yawning? See, I always yawn or something while I'm recording the podcast. I don't know. See, I'm fine. I'm not tired, but apparently I am because I've just yawned. Let's get into the next bit. Wow. Okay, now, when you're having like a hot chocolate or something, it's not uncommon to put a marshmallow in it or something like that. But the other week, my mum did something scandalous. I'm going to say it was scandalous. I was surprised. I thought, okay. Now what she did, she was having I'm not sure if she was having a hot chocolate or a Milo, but she was having a chocolate based warm beverage. And what she did is she put like a little square of chocolate in it as well. And I just thought, what have you done? Totally bizarre, if I'm honest. I've never seen anybody really do that before, or been even made aware of its existence. Why am I yawning? My goodness. Yeah, so you know how you go and buy a block of chocolate, Cadbury's, whatever, other brands are available, and of course they're broken down and have each into little pieces. She had broken one of them off and she put it in her chocolatey hot beverage. Don't know why. Apparently it tasted great. But I thought to myself, why have you done that for? Care to elaborate on that thought process? Crazy. Very, interesting. And does that make it too chocolatey, though? And is that like a bit of a culinary crime as well? Totally odd. So have you ever done anything like that? Have you ever had, like, say, a chocolatey drink and put chocolate, like more chocolate in it? Or what? I have heard of somebody put tomato sauce on like spag bowl. Why would you do that? You've already got, it is like tomato sauce base, right? Crazy. Anyway, let's get on to the last thought. Well, we're ripping through this. Ripping through it. Supervillains. I just want to talk about supervillains briefly because I was reading a James Bond book. I was reading Dr. No. And Dr. No did something completely ridiculous. Okay. You know, he's there, and actually this isn't exclusive to Bond villains or anything. It is just villains in movies in general. They always have like the hero or their nemesis. They catch them, they have them in their sights. But, you know, because the villain has an ego, I guess they always sort of set up some sort of elaborate, I don't know. Like in the case of Dr. No, he wants Bond to do like a obstacle course or something to see, you know, will Bond survive it? What's his pain threshold, right? Now, Bond survives and, plot twist, goes and kills Dr. No. And I thought, Dr. No, he was there with Bond. Why didn't he just kill him? Just kill Bond. Just do it. Just kill him. And it'll be fine, right? Like, Dr. No's going to be fine after that. And surely all, like, the supervillains talk to each other. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, so what's happened to, I don't know, Scaramanga, right? It's like, oh, well, that Bond bloke got him. So if you're a supervillain and Bond turns up, you're like, surely you're going to know he has form for, like, killing your fellow supervillains. Get rid of him! Somebody's just gone past on a scooter. It sounds like a egg beater. It's like, bah. But ridiculous. But it's like in anything, though. You have a villain always sort of has a bit of a meeting or whatever with the hero, as it were, and the villain escapes, the hero or whatever escapes. It doesn't look as it's hero and villain and hero. You know, just get rid of them, right? Just do it. Like it's in Batman and all these films, there's always a meeting between Batman and whoever the villain is, or the superhero and the villain. yeah, at some early point, and then they get away, and you just think, end it right there, end it. So maybe if Dr. No, for example, killed Bond when they first met, the book might have been 3 chapters shorter, I reckon. Might have been 3 chapters shorter. So you just anyway, whatever. I don't write stories. That's probably why. And yeah, if I did it, it'd probably be like just a really fizzer. It's like, oh, he's dead. Cool. Anyway, everybody. Oh, that's it. Right. Let's wrap it up after this. Well, everybody, that is it for this episode of the Luke Who's Talking podcast. A bizarre one, probably. So, 2 rants and a thing about chocolate. So, there you go, everybody. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show, as always. And if you want to send me an email and all that jazz, you can. Luke Who's Talking pod@gmail.com or on Twitter @L_Who's Talking. And it's nearly 3 o'clock at time of recording. I'm feeling a bit hungry, so I might go and... It's Tuesday today, isn't it? Yeah. So I might go and, I don't know, put something in my mouth. Who knows what. Anyway, everybody, I'll catch you next time. Bye.